Hello and welcome to Literati on News Central, the show where we talk to writers, producers, culture journalists, and really anyone who's involved in the process of getting some of these wonderful pieces of literature to you, the readers, and also part of the process of shaping our stories, our culture, the ideas of things that we hold dear, particularly in the artistic space. The show is brought to you by Glow. And with me today in the studio, I'm really excited about this one, is Miss Oyinkan Braithwaite, My Sister, the Serial Killer. This is her first novel,
Yes.
but the novel has received great reviews from New York Times, Marie Claire. It's been longlisted for the Booker Prize. The book also has been shortlisted for the Women's Prize in Fiction. And it really has already been seen kind of like as a trailblazing novel in its own genre, particularly in the style of writing. So we're really excited to have Oyinkan here with us. Oyinkan, thank you so much for
having
being
me.
on Literati. All right, Oyinkan, there's so many things we would need to talk about in the book, but the first question is a question that, one, I'm sure you've heard several times. Two, I'm sure you're tired of hearing, but if I do not ask, the readers will throw stones at me and, better you than me. No, I'm just joking. Why did the book end the way it did? In fact, this question, a friend of mine insisted, and they're watching, and when you see her, I want to know, why did it just end like that? What's going on? Is there a part two?
Okay, well, I'm going to use this opportunity to say that there is no part two because I am asked that a lot. But I ended it the way I did because it felt right. I've even I once got a message from someone, I think on Instagram, and the person said there seemed to be like a wave now of like it was a phase now where writers are not, you know, ending their work in this tidy way and they're leaving it up to, I'm basically kind of asking me if I had jumped on that bandwagon. But that's not the way that I work. When I started writing this story, I didn't know how it was going to end. And then as I got to know the characters better, as I got to know my protagonist, Korede, better, halfway through the book, I realized what was going to happen. It came to me because I knew my characters now, and it was the only ending that truly made sense as far as I was concerned.
Yeah. For me, I actually love the ending because I like being able to create, some days I go and, I find ways where Corday is now and sort out things for all of that. But, and I think it's one thing that a lot of your fans must have told you, and if you haven't heard them, prepare to hear it now, is we really love you do your own thing. It seems to, like you rightly said, it comes to you, and that's what seems to work for you. Now, you don't have this long, expansive literary career. Now, so where's this coming from, this approach to literature, to writing?
You know what? It's interesting about that because I remember the first time I started telling people I was a writer, and it took me so long to tell people I was a writer because I didn't have any book. And when you tell people you're a writer, the next question is, "So, have I read your book? Where's your book?" Sort of thing. But I've been writing for a long time. To the world, it's like, okay, where did she, come from? But to me, it doesn't feel that way. I've been writing since I was a child. I was writing in primary school. My degree was in creative writing and law. So this is what I know how to do. So when you say where did the style come from, it came from years and years of practice and honing and figuring out what works for you, what doesn't work for you, where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are. Just constant writing.
So let's go back to this book. Now, the characters in this book are such strong characters. What kind of feedback do you get about particularly the sibling relationship in this? I mean, it's a very Nigerian thing. The relationship between the protagonist and her sister, it's something that a lot of us Nigerians and I think on the African continent a lot, can relate to a lot in that relationship. What kind of feedback are you getting in that relationship?
You know what? It's funny because the book is about sisters, but I didn't take it. Their relationship was important to me, but when I was writing it, I didn't think, this is going to bring, this is going to be people are going to be giving this book to their sisters, and this is going to be a way that families are going to bond. I didn't think it was that sort of book, and that has been one of the, I think, most interesting, most parts of this journey for me this year. And I really enjoyed it, where I've had people say, oh, sign it for my sister, or I'm going to give it to my sister. There was one woman who told me that her daughters bought it for one another without realizing that's what they had done. So they ended up exchanging, the books. And for me, and these are not Nigerians, so I've had Nigerians say it, I've had other Africans say, oh, we love the relationship, we think that the relationship is real, we can sort of empathize with them. However, it's interesting because it just goes to show that all these hang-ups we have about race, at the end of the day, people are just people, and people from all over the world have been like, yes, this is me and my sister, or I know I have a friend like this, or, there was a lady who stood up once and told me that, when I say stand up, was at one of these events, that she buys it for brides as they're about to go off on their honeymoon. And she gives them my sister Shirika as a gift. And I was like, let's not examine that too closely. But yeah, it's been really interesting.
No, it's great because, literature has this ability to move beyond what we think it is in our small corners, to showing us how, at the end of the day, we are humans first. And, these stories, we may feel so connected to it because, it's from here, it's our thing. But then those same connections are shared with people from, all sorts of places and all sorts of walks of life. I'm really interested in knowing why she's giving the book to her brides.
Yeah.
But in terms of accolades and awards, you've been shortlisted for the Women's Prize, the Booker Prize. What's that been like?
There's a lot about my journey that has just felt like a gift from God, and they weren't things that I anticipated. And one of the reasons I'm really blessed is that the people I work with who are working on my book, so my agent, my publishers, I've got some really talented, passionate people who are not only championing my book, but looking after me, making sure that I'm okay, making sure that, I'm not overwhelmed, making sure the book is seen. So, I mean, this year, because as a writer, you're kind of in your own space a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm really the typical introvert. So this year was a lot, but it also taught me that writing the book might be a solitary process, but publishing the book isn't. You're working with lots and lots of different people, answering emails all the time. So it's not, so the book is no longer, is just yours. I've seen people treat this book like it's their baby. It's not just mine anymore. I'm sharing everything that happens to me blesses every other person who works on this book as well. So it isn't even just mine anymore. And I know that it's because if you don't see a book, you can't, there's so many really good books out there. It's hard to say why this book got it and this book didn't get it and things like that. But I know it's because my team, the people who work with me, have worked really, really hard to make sure that this book is seen.
A few years ago, in 2016, your short story was shortlisted for the Commonwealth Prize. You described that as almost like a block falling on you when you heard the news of that. In some
When
of
did I
the
describe that?
one of the
I mean,
interviews,
it's possible, but like
one of the interviews you did. So now, when I thought about that, like, okay, it's the Commonwealth Prize for a short story, and it had that dramatic an effect.
Wait, are you sure it was a Commonwealth and not one of these more recent ones?
Who knows? Maybe it's even one of these.
It might have been one of these, because I don't know that the Commonwealth had that, I mean, I don't think it had so to answer the question you were going to ask.
Which, exactly. Which is more of an amebo question. like how, when you heard the news, what did you do? Did you fall on the floor and shout, "Oh my God!"
I'm not the most effusive person, but at least not outwardly so. But when I found out about the Booker specifically, because why do I remember the Booker more clearly? I think why I remember it, I think the Women's Prize, I was told over the phone.
Okay.
But the Booker Prize, I was still told over the phone, but I was in England and I was with my publicist, with the UK publicist. and we were together about to go for an interview, and then I got a call. And the funniest thing was she already knew about the booker, but she had been waiting till after the interview because she didn't want me to be, like too excited to do the interview, right? So she was waiting till after to tell me the news. But my agent calls me whilst I was there and quickly told me. She has a habit of like getting in there before anybody else has a chance to like tell me stuff. So I found out like, as I was about to go on an interview and all of that, and I just felt really numb.
All right, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about what even having the book listed on the booker, what that even means for publishing and for writers in this part of the world when we come back from the break.
Hey guys, making music for you is so easy for me to do. But you know what else is super easy to do? Linking your NIN to your Glow line by dialing *109*NIN hash. Or I can call 109 from my Glow line and follow the instructions. And if I don't want to call, I can text my NIN to 109. I can even visit glowworld.com/NIN. And what if you've forgotten your NIN? All you have to do is dial *346# and Glow will help you remember it. Someone may ask, what if I haven't registered? All you have to do is go into the nearest Glow World and we'll help you register. It's that easy. So don't get disconnected from all of the amazing voice and data offers from Glow. Linking your NIN to your Glow lines is simple, safe, and 100% free with zero hassles.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we're still on Literati with Oyinkan Braithwaite talking about My Sister, the Serial Killer on News Central. So before the break, we were talking about, when you heard the news of the Booker Prize. But among literary circles, there's been this particularly, what I think is a compliment to you and the work is that this book doesn't necessarily pander to any kind of genre expectations. You don't get the feel reading the book that the writer is trying to be dark comedy or trying to be like, this is just a book that is written as it's coming, and you get that sense. And so when a book like that doesn't seem to pander to whoever it is that makes decisions on prizes like these gets long listed, do you see how this is seen by people like us as a good thing? Because in a way, it tells young writers in this part of the world, just go with your own writing. And I mean, if you get that call, good. If you don't, it doesn't matter. There's so much more to the experience.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think everybody was excited about me being on the long list for the Booker, but yeah, I think I agree. I think what this journey with this book has shown me is that, because even the way that this book got out into the world is a testimony, and what it has shown me is that, you're not always what you think is good. Like you don't know what the world is waiting for at any point in time. The best thing you can do is be true to yourself. You can't be like, okay, this is what's working, so I'm going to do X, Y, Z. Because it actually takes a long time to publish a book. I was lucky. Mine took a year. When I say it took a year, they had already said they were publishing it. They gave me a year. The publication date was a year from when they said they were going to publish it. And a lot of authors get 2 years. So by the time, if you try and follow what's hot right now, by the time your book actually comes out, that thing may no longer be hot. So you can't let that be what's guiding you.
And that makes sense, because by the time your book comes out, whatever that, it may no longer be relevant. That's
most likely we've moved on. And the thing about options is that you don't know until they say yes, they're doing it. You don't know, because they've just bought the rights to do it for a period of time. So until they say they're going to do it, I actually don't know what's going on.
Okay, but do you have any ideas on who you would want to see cast as a particular character, or how do you ever sit and just imagine, How is it going to play out?
When I'm asked, I usually say that I think it's a book that needs mostly new faces, a film that needs mostly new faces. Sometimes I say, like, I would cast Beverly Naya for Yinka.
Okay.
Just because I think she has that sassiness.
Okay.
But yeah, usually I think if I had a choice, I would pick mostly, especially for the two main characters, I would pick faces that we were not yet tired of, like,
Would you do a
seeing
cameo?
on screen. If they offered me a cameo, yes,
No, so
I would do one. I would be like,
as
what would I be? I would be, I'd be a patient in the hospital,
okay.
or, you know, maybe one of the people who's giving them condolences at their father's. I didn't, so I can dress up in, like, at their father's remembrance or wherever. I don't know, but, like, yeah, just a passer. You know,
and if you guys are watching, I've optioned this. Please take her very seriously, because I want to see the gele, the whole works of coming for the condolences and everything. Now, so we've had this.
I can tell you working title option did.
Okay, yes.
And they're the ones that just thinking of things I can actually say. They're the ones that that did the movie Baby Driver. I don't know if you watched it.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I loved that movie. Yeah.
So working title, okay. So we know where to go stalk and where to
to encourage
to know what's coming next. So the second novel, let's stay on that. Tell us a bit more about the process, because you're not the first one to sit where you're sitting and tell us that. Yeah, the second one is, whew. So tell us more.
I mean, do you know what? I don't really feel confident telling you more about the process, because I'm not on the other side of it.
You're still in the process.
I'm not on the other side of it. So, like, I don't even have anything conducive to give. Every time I give myself, like, a pep talk, like, the next week I forget it. Like, sometimes I'm like, look, you know, let's say do you just get your head in the space, right? And then I get distracted again. And, you know, and I think also, to be fair to me, I've always been someone who jumps from story to story. It's not unique to my situation now. So, like, even my sister, the serial killer, was born out of that frustration of you're always jumping from story to story. You must finish. I mean, I've finished novels before. This was actually my third finished novel, but it was a project I did just because I felt like I had to train myself to start and finish. So yeah, I'm still in that.
Do you know that also reminds me of a rumor I heard, and you'll hear me talk about all these little gists that we hear, that you wrote this book on a whim.
I mean, a whim is a strong word for it. It wasn't a whim, but it was kind of, I was writing something else, and I wasn't finishing, and I was having a lot of difficulty with that one, and so I decided to write this as a. It wasn't meant to be a public. You know, I wrote it because I needed to practice finishing, and I wanted to forget about the word. I was like, look, you know, you're trying to write the great novel. It's refusing to be great, so you might as well write something for yourself that's fun, that doesn't demand too much from you. You're gonna write it in a month, you're gonna complete it, it's gonna be a novella. Like, I gave myself strict guidelines, and I wrote every day feverishly, and I had no intention of, like, sending it out into the world in that sense. I self-published it.
Did you get it done in a month?
The novella, it was a novella first.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it done in a month. So it was half the size it is now. And then I self-published it.
I mean, the timelines you're giving, they sound amazing to me, because, again, we've had a lot of writers sit where you are and talk about timelines of 10 years and 4 years, and, you know, so I could see why it would be described as a whim in writer term, because
It's not a whim.
because we're talking months. I mean, that in writer speak is...
It's not every... I'm a fast writer, but it's not every story I write that I can write. Which is like, this book really did just feel like a blessing. It's not every... Like I said, I jump from story to story a lot. So it's not every story that I can just... I've done it before where I've been like, you must finish it, and I finished it. But it doesn't work. For every story is its own,
Yeah.
like, has its own quirks or whatever. It doesn't work. At least not working for me now.
Yes, because
I know that.
Once we get back from the break, we want to know what's the status of that great book that you were writing. And so we'll continue the conversation when we get back from the quick break that we'll take.
Can you see me now? We're just having a good time, and I'm feeling so good tonight.
Where you did?
I dey come now, you go see me now. You go.
Call your party and everybody, yeah. Make we start to the corner.
Where you did now?
You go see me now.
Everybody they dance.
Where you did now?
Oh, you go see me now.
You want to
I'm fine, sir. Even me, I surprised.
Hey, where you at?
Hello, how are you?
Tell us one truth nobody knows.
I like to steam it from my mama pot.
Glow, the best data plans in town. Dial *777#.
Welcome back, and if you're just joining us, we're still on Literati, talking to Oyinkan Braithwaite about her fantastic book, My Sister, the Serial Killer. Our social media handle is @NewsCentralTV, but specifically for the show, you use the hashtag #NCLiterati. So we were talking about, the process of getting this book out, and it's been described as a whim because it seemingly happened so quickly. But then you mentioned also, interestingly, that this book was supposed to be kind of like a distraction from that great book you were working on at the time. So tell us about the status of that great book that you were working on.
It's still chilling. It's still chilling though. Like, since then I've done, I've done like other works. I don't know, maybe at some point, like I said, I do it a lot. If you go to my laptop and you open it up, you'll see some work there that's at 30,000 words unfinished, some 20,000, some 10,000. Yeah, it's not just that book that I started.
So there's a chance that they may all be finished around the same time, and we just have like back to back.
Man.
Like 6, 7, 8 books dropping on the same, all long short listed
Highly
and
unlikely.
winning.
Highly unlikely. Like my second novel, not the second after this, the second novel I wrote, because I've got 3 completed works. This is my third completed novel. So my second one was a fantasy, 100,000 words, and it was a mess. Like nobody has seen it because I know it was a mess.
For some reason, I don't believe you, but okay.
It was a mess. But sometimes I dreamed like one day I will go back to it. And I feel like then I'll know how to make it what it needs to be.
And speaking of doing other things, I like the idea of going back to that, to the one you're describing as a mess. I'm just insisting to extract a promise from you that when you do and it comes out, you'd come back here and then we could take up the conversation from this point of, oh, remember that's the one that I was calling a mess, and we'll pick up the conversation. So that promise being gotten. You also mentioned that you do a number of other things besides just, writing these great novels. You're also a poet.
Yeah.
You said that you responded you weren't sure.
To be honest, like, it's hard for me. I think it's getting harder and harder for me to call myself a poet these days because I haven't been poeting much. I've not been writing poetry, and I've not been reading poetry either. I've not really been consuming it the way that I used to. So I'm becoming a little. I still love poetry, but I'm out of practice. So I think I'm becoming a little less comfortable with that title. But I illustrate. That's something I still do on a regular basis.
Okay.
So I illustrate quite a bit.
Now, I mentioned during the break when we were having a random chat about Farafina Workshop. Tell us a bit about that. And I know you weren't a part of it, but a lot of writers, good writers, have benefited tremendously from being a part of that workshop. You're a creative writer, you studied creative writing, but there's not that many creative writing courses as part of university curricula in this part of the world. So what do you think is the place for workshops like Farafina, creative writing workshops, and where do you think, I want to use the word, and I know you're going to reject this, but take it from me, established writers like yourself could participate in bringing these kinds of learning opportunities to hone their craft for up-and-coming writers?
You know, I'm of two minds about courses and degrees and stuff. I think that, you know, there's a place for it, but if you don't have an opportunity to do it, that doesn't stop you from learning. You know, at the end of the day, like even outside of my university, I constantly buy books on writing. I still buy books on writing. You know, I sometimes do online courses. I haven't done one in a while, but after university, I did some online courses. And, you know, just working on your craft is actually possible, even when you might not have, I mean, yes, Nigeria is currently dry land as far as that kind of stuff goes, but like there's still a way for you to build yourself. So if somebody really had that desire, you know, and then constantly writing and consuming, I've come across, I remember when I was at uni, there was some, I did one of my courses I did was in poetry, and I remember coming across people, and they were not Nigerians, just coming across random people who were convinced they could write poetry but didn't want to read poetry. And for me, I thought that was mad. But I've come across them here as well, and it was a room full of writers, and you know, at some point I asked them, you know, who here knows how to query an author, and no one raised their hand. But then people will be wondering why they're not getting published. You know, you don't even know this thing that you claim you want to do with all your heart, soul, and mind. You don't even know how to, you know, and Google is there. So I feel like nobody has an excuse, because if you just Google how to get published, how to query an author, how to query a publisher, you will learn these things. So it's not only the privilege of people who have gone abroad or who have done these courses. These things are actually at your fingertips if you're willing to look for them. But yeah.
I appreciate the point you're making. I think it's a solid point that, yes, the background you have could give you some measure of, you know, advantage, technical know-how and all of that. But there is the component that we should be emphasizing a lot more on, which is you want to do something. You want to be a writer. You want to be a poet. You want to be an actor. There's so much information that's available. I mean, Google is there, like you said. You need to take on that responsibility of learning more, online courses, and not making it all about workshops and you know, curricular-based type learning, but even an on-the-job or on-the-craft type learning is an important thing that we need to imbibe as a culture going forward. I appreciate that point, and I think it's a solid point that needs to be made. Oyinkan, having you on the show today has been an absolute delight, but we need to recap on all the promises that you've made. First, the great book was it the great book? No,
I don't know. It was. I don't know which.
There's one you promised.
The fantasy one.
Yes, the fantasy one. Once it's done and it's published and it wins all the prizes, you bring it back, give us free copies signed, and we'll talk a lot about it. And we'll get some of your poetry work. I know you didn't promise that one. That one just came to me now. We'll get some of your poetry work as soon as possible. Oyinkan, it's been fantastic having you on the show. We hope to have you back again soon. And thank you all for joining us on Literati. See you again soon.